Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Coming up in the next hour. Russia-Ukraine conflict rages on. President Zelensky says Ukrainian troops strengthening their positions in Kursk. Antony Blinken set to arrive in Israel as US pushes for Gaza ceasefire. Expected to meet Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Gaza peace talks due to resume next week. Thai King Mahavaji Ralongkorn formally appoints Paetongtarn Shinawatra as Thailand's new Prime Minister. Newly appointed PM says will perform her duties with an open mind. India's Home Minister Amit Shah presents Indian citizenship certificates to 188 Hindu refugees from neighbouring countries under Citizenship Amendment Act. Reigning champions Real Madrid to kick off La Liga against Mallorca, featuring Kylian Mbappe's debut. Coach Ancelotti emphasizes rest for the players during the season. As the fierce battle between Russia and Ukraine continues in Kursk region, President Volodymyr Zelensky said Ukrainian troops were strengthening their positions in Kursk and called the captured territories an exchange fund, implying they could be swapped for Ukrainian regions occupied by Moscow.
The operation is proceeding exactly as we planned. The bravery of Ukrainians is achieving great things. We are now strengthening our positions. The bridgehead of our presence is becoming stronger.
Now in its second week, this is Ukraine's deepest incursion into Russia since Moscow launched its full-scale invasion more than 2 years ago. Ukraine's surprise cross-border operation has resulted in more than 1 lakh people fleeing to safety. Meanwhile, Zelensky renewed his calls for Ukraine's Western allies to allow long-range strikes on Russia.
We are doing everything possible to provide our soldiers with the necessary weapons and reinforcements. In this context, it is crucial that our partners remove barriers that prevent us from weakening Russian positions in the way the course of the war demands. Long-range capabilities of our forces are the answers to the most important and strategic questions of this war.
Safety at Ukraine's Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant is deteriorating following a drone strike that hit a perimeter access road on Saturday, according to International Atomic Energy Agency Director General Rafael Mariano Grossi. The Russian management of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant said a Ukraine drone dropped an explosive charge on a road used by staff. Russia has been in control of the Zaporizhzhia site, the largest nuclear power plant in Europe, since soon after it launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. The plant is dormant as Moscow and Kiev have repeatedly accused each other of trying to sabotage its operations and endangering safety around the plant. Ukraine's 41st Mechanized Brigade held live-fire exercises on Saturday amid an incursion into Russia's Kursk region. Not disclosing the location of the drills for security reasons, the deputy commander of the brigade said the Ukraine was writing military history in its war against Russia. The conflict between the two countries has intensified after August 6th, after Ukraine stormed across the western border of Russia, after which Russia has retaliated multiple times. Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin is traveling to Azerbaijan. This marks Putin's first trip to the Caucasus nation since 2018 and occurs as Russia aims to reassert its role as a mediator between Azerbaijan and its adversary, Armenia. Dasha Chernysheва has more from Moscow.
Further development of Russian-Azerbaijani relations of strategic partnership and alliance is expected to be discussed during Russian President Vladimir Putin's two-day state visit to Azerbaijan. The Kremlin says during the negotiations, Putin and Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev will also discuss current international and regional issues. The sides are expected to adopt a joint statement of the heads of states and sign a number of documents. Last week, Russian Security Council Secretary Sergei Shoigu visited Baku. He said that the West threatened the security of South Caucasus by interfering into the affairs of the region. Putin last visited Baku in 2018, and Aliyev recently said Russia-Azerbaijani ties are an example for the neighboring states. A senior Russian lawmaker, Leonid Slutsky, said that the visit confirms the high level of strategic partnership between Moscow and Baku. Slutsky said the prospects for the cooperation between the two countries are steadily expanding across the entire range of cooperation in economic, political and humanitarian spheres. He also said that the two countries are staunch supporters of the establishment of a multipolar world order. Putin's visit comes against the backdrop of heightened tensions in the region and Russia's souring relations with Armenia. Aliyev last visited Moscow in April. Dasha Chernashova in Moscow, reporting for DD India.
All right, indeed, India correspondent Dasha Chernashova is joining us from Moscow to give us more details. Dasha, what is the current situation in Kursk region as the conflict rages on between both sides?
Well, Russian armed forces are still fighting against the Ukrainian military in Russia's Kursk region. We've heard now that the second bridge over the river of Seym has been destroyed by the Ukrainian military. This is in the Glushkovsky district of Russia's Kursk region. And we're also understanding that more attacks have been taking place against the Belgorod region, where at least 2 women have died as a result of the Ukrainian attacks. We also understand that the Russian armed forces are trying to prevent the further movement of the Ukrainian troops any deeper into the Russian territory. But as this is happening, we keep hearing from Russia that there are increased risks of Ukrainian attacks against the nuclear power plants, namely in the city of Kurchatov, that is in the Kursk region, where Russia says Ukraine has embarked on the preparation for attacks against this one of these largest nuclear power plants in Europe. And Moscow says that the international organizations and states have to prevent that from happening and influence Kyiv and to abandon any plans to attack this.
All right. Amidst all these things which are happening, Dasha, this is said to be Ukraine's deepest incursion into Russia. How is the Russian side responding to it? Are they beefing up their military presence in Kursk or Belgorod region?
Well, certainly the Russian MOD have been beefing up their military presence in the area where this incursion has taken place. But at the same time, we are hearing from the officials in Moscow that even though Ukraine has countered that Moscow would be pulling out its troops in the areas of Donbas, it has not happened. So while Russia is beefing up its presence in the Kursk region, it has also the capacity to maintain the same level, the same presence in the areas of Donbas. And we are hearing about more gains of the Russian armed forces in the area of the so-called special military operation in Donbas. New settlements have been taken by the Russian military over the course of the past 24 hours. But keep in mind that the front line and the attacks are even larger, because we have seen some attacks also, some drones from Ukraine also intercepted over the territory of Belarus. And interestingly here, we've heard from the leader of Belarus, Alexander Lukashenko, that they are also beefing up their presence on the Belarusian border with Ukraine. In one of his recent interviews, Lukashenko said that Kyiv is trying to provoke Moscow into more strong response. But what Moscow is doing, it is trying to give the moderate response to squeeze the Ukrainian troops out from the Kursk region, while also not escalating these tensions any further.
Okay, Dasha, we'll keep taking updates from you since this is developing. Thank you so much for your analysis. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is all set to arrive in Israel amid increased diplomatic efforts to reach a deal and end the fighting between Israel and Hamas and free Israeli hostages. This is Blinken's 10th trip to West Asia since the conflict began in October last year. The top U.S. diplomat is expected to meet Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu on Monday. Gaza ceasefire talks in Doha, mediated by the U.S., Qatar and Egypt, are due to resume next week. A statement from Netanyahu's office said Israel's negotiating team had expressed cautious optimism on the possibility of advancing a deal. U.S. President Joe Biden said on Friday, following 2 days of talks in Doha, that efforts to reach a deal were now in sight, although he warned that negotiations were far from over. Thousands protest in Caracas against Venezuela's election results. Opposition leader Maria Corina Machado addressed the crowd, evoking the protesters and international and Venezuelan government to recognize opposition candidate Edmundo Gonzalez as the winner. The country's electoral authority has said President Nicolas Maduro won his third term in July 28 contest with just under 52% of the vote. But the opposition leader, Maria Corina Machado, has published online what it says are 83% of voting machine tallies, which give its candidate Edmundo Gonzalez a hearty 67% support. The election's result of Venezuela has sparked widespread protests globally. Thousands in Spain's Madrid and Florida's Miami recently joined protests against Venezuela's election results. Thousands of people have taken to the streets to express their outrage and concern to call for justice and transparency. As the situation continues to unfold, the protests showed no sign of abating, with demonstrators vowing to keep up the pressure until their demands for a legitimate and fair electoral process are met. As the U.S. presidential race becoming a close contest between the two rival candidates, the Republican Donald Trump has increased the pitch of his attack over Kamala Harris. Pennsylvania is their latest battleground, where both are trying to tilt the voters' mood for the polls on November 5. Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump was campaigning in Wilkes-Barre in northeastern Pennsylvania on Saturday. While in the poll surveys, Trump's percentage is going down in comparison to Kamala Harris. Trump questioned the credibility of these predictions. The former U.S. president even took pot shots against Harris in personal terms that does not generally sound in good taste. He tried to convince his voters that beating his Democrat rival Kamala Harris will be easier for him than the former Democrat aspirant President Joe Biden.
Polls and this stuff, and I'm at like 93%. I said, so why are we having an election? They didn't have an election. Why are we having an election? But I believe she will be easier to beat than him because she's a truly radical left lunatic.
As Kamala Harris's running mate and vice presidential candidate Tim Walz was campaigning in Nebraska, Pat came the reply from him about Trump's allegations and pot shots. Addressing the rally in Nebraska's Omaha, Tim tried to corner Trump on his economic agenda. The Democrat vice presidential candidate, Tim, said the former U.S. president was just a corporate-friendly man. He worked for the ultra-rich and will do more for them if he came to power again.
Look, when he tries to play dumb about this 2025 plan, I coached football for enough years. When somebody takes the time to draw up a playbook, they plan on using it. He knows what this will do. Restrict our freedoms, rig the economy for the ultra-rich by punishing the middle class. If he returns to the White House, he's going to pick up just where he left off. But the people around him who worked with him the first time are already telling us it will be much, much worse.
Vice President Kamala Harris, too, is readying herself to respond on Trump's assertions soon in the same province, as she would conduct a bus tour of western Pennsylvania, starting in Pittsburgh on Sunday. Her Sunday response to Trump will be crucial, as she has to attend the Democratic National Convention the next day, when she will formally accept the party's presidential nomination, and she will try to attract the confidence of her party for the presidential turf in comparison to former president. And still to come on DD India News Hour. The leaders of South Korea, Japan and the United States issue a joint statement. Stay with us to know more. Mpox cases on the rise globally. African Union Health Agency reports over 18,000 suspected or confirmed cases in Africa since January. Alain Delon, the celebrated actor, passes away at the age of 88.
Welcome to Jaipur.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I am Siddharth Bharadwaj. Thai King Mahavaji Ralangkorn on Sunday formally appointed Paetongtarn Shinawatra as Thailand's new Prime Minister. It will pave the way for the formation of a cabinet in coming weeks. Paetongtarn arrived with her father, former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra, at Pheu Thai party headquarters to attend a royal endorsement ceremony a short while ago. She said she will continue with all the policies that former Prime Minister Sretha was following. She also said her government will try to stimulate the economy, combat illegal drug problems, improve universal health care. On the issue of her father being part of the government, Paetongtarn said she has not considered a formal position for Thaksin in government but will seek his advice. Paetongtarn has become Thailand's youngest Prime Minister just days after ally Sretha Thavisin was dismissed as Premier by Constitutional Court. She is the third Shinawatra to be Prime Minister but will hope to avoid the fate of her father and aunt Yingluck, both of whom were thrown out of power in military coups.
I am dedicated to pushing forward key policies from economic reforms and the 30 baht healthcare improvements to enhancing digital infrastructure and promoting Thailand's soft power on the global stage. I promise to serve everyone equally and wholeheartedly, every age, every gender, every diversity. Together, let's turn any challenges into opportunities, making Thailand a place where everyone can dream, create, and shape their future.
Meanwhile, Paetongtarn Shinawatra's father, who is Thailand's former Prime Minister as well, Thaksin Shinawatra, received a royal pardon shortening his parole by 2 weeks, and it happened just a day after his daughter was elected Premier by Parliament. Thaksin has been at the heart of 2-decade-past struggle between the Shinawatra family and his allies on one hand, and on the other, a nexus of royalists, generals and old money families that have long wielded influence over Thai governments and institutions. After a dramatic return last August from self-exile to avoid jail time in the wake of his overthrow in a 2006 military coup, Thaksin served 6 months in hospital detention due to health reasons. Later, he was released on parole in February. But after his return, he was sentenced to 8 years in prison for abuse of power and conflicts of interests during his time in office from 2001 to 2006. His sentence was commuted to 1 year by Thai King last September. And India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated Paetongtarn Shinawatra for being elected as Thailand's new Prime Minister. In a post on X, PM wrote, and I quote, "Congratulations Paetongtarn Shinawatra on your election as the Prime Minister of Thailand. Best wishes for a very successful tenure. Look forward to working with you to further strengthen the bilateral ties between India and Thailand that are based on the strong foundations of civilizational, cultural and people-to-people connect." Unquote. The leaders of South Korea, Japan and the United States issued a joint statement on Sunday marking the anniversary of their summit at Camp David and reaffirmed a pledge to jointly tackle regional challenges. The statement issued by South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol's office said the principles on trilateral cooperation established at the summit last year continues to serve as a roadmap for the three countries' cooperation. US President Joe Biden, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida and Yoon met on August 18 and agreed to deepen military and economic cooperation and take united stand against China's growing power and security threats from North Korea. Sri Lanka's main presidential candidates kick-started their campaigns on Friday and Saturday, drawing thousands of people to their rallies ahead of the crucial elections on the 21st of September. Drone footage showed large crowds of people listening to speeches by three frontrunners, incumbent President Ranil Wickremesinghe, main opposition leader Sajith Premadasa, and Marxist-leaning parliamentarian Anura Kumara Dissanayake. The presidential poll in the Indian Ocean nation, grappling with the fallout of its worst financial crisis in decades, is key to charting Sri Lanka's way out of crisis unleashed after exhausting its foreign reserves, sending the economy into free fall and defaulting on foreign debt in 2022. Nearly 17 million of Sri Lanka's 22 million population are eligible to cast their ballots. Mpox cases are on the rise globally, with the African Union Health Agency reporting 18,737 suspected or confirmed cases in Africa this year, including 1,200 in just 1 week. This week, the first cases outside of Africa were recorded in Sweden and Pakistan. DD India's Isaac Lucando reports.
The nearly 19,000 Mpox cases that have been reported this year include 3 strains of the virus. One strain, the new and more deadly clade 1B, has prompted the World Health Organization to declare an international health emergency. In 2022, Mpox outbreaks occurred in over 70 countries that have never previously reported the disease. While vaccines and treatments helped control the virus in wealthy countries, doses remain scarce in Africa. This year, a potentially more infectious form of Mpox was identified in a mining town in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. Congo's cases have surged, and at least 13 African countries have reported new outbreaks. The WHO says it will soon release recommendations from its emergency committee and has called for increased vaccine production. The global health body describes Mpox as a viral disease that spreads from animals to humans and through human-to-human contact, with symptoms including fever, muscle aches, and large skin lesions. Isaac Lucando in Dar es Salaam, reporting for DD India.
Hurricane Ernesto knocked out power, downed trees and flooded parts of Bermuda on Saturday, but the British Island territory appeared to have escaped major injuries or property damage. The Category 1 storm unleashed powerful winds and whipped up 35-foot seas, leading to power loss for 71% of the territory's 36,000 customers. The center of the storm is forecast to approach southeastern Newfoundland in Canada late on Monday. Maximum sustained winds blew at 75 mph and were predicted to hold that speed for another 48 hours, after which they should weaken, the U.S. Weather Service said. A magnitude 7.2 earthquake struck off the east coast of Russia's Kamchatka at depth of 51 kilometers. This followed tsunami threat from quake by U.S. National Tsunami Warning Center. But the Kamchatka branch of Russia's emergency ministry reported that there was no threat of tsunami, and the recorded aftershocks from the quake ranged in their magnitude from 3.9 to 5.0. Let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. Over 100 firefighters were deployed to tackle a massive fire at London's iconic Somerset House on the Strand. No injuries or casualties have been reported so far. This iconic building is home to priceless paintings, including those by Vincent van Gogh. A Ferris wheel caught fire in Germany's Leipzig during a music festival. The fire first broke out in one passenger car and spread to a neighboring one. The horrific sky-high incident was caught on video as various police vans and emergency staff arrived at the scene. Police say that over 30 people are injured, along with 4 officers among those hurt. A rescue operation is underway. Lost in waters deep, a group that searches for shipwrecks has found the wreck of HMS Hawk, a cruiser boat torpedoed by a German submarine in 1914. Lost in waters deep, a group that searches for shipwrecks has appeared to have found the wreck of HMS Hawk, a cruiser boat torpedoed by a German submarine in 1914. Alain Delon, the celebrated actor who starred in a string of classics such as Plein Soleil, Les Samouraïs and Rocco and his brothers, passed away at the age of 88. With striking blue eyes, Delon was sometimes referred to as the French Frank Sinatra for his handsome looks. Delon was idealized by men and women alike, with American cinema giants including Burt Lancaster when the Frenchman played apprentice hitman Scorpio in eponymous 1973 film. And still to come on DD India News Hour. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar arrives in Kuwait. Traffic has resumed on the railway track where 20 coaches of the Sabarmati Express passenger train derailed near Kanpur in Uttar Pradesh state. Women in Assam, in a warm gesture, tied Rakhis on policemen ahead of Raksha Bandhan festival.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj, and a quick recap of the headlines. Russia-Ukraine conflict rages on. President Zelensky says Ukrainian troops strengthening their positions in Kursk. Antony Blinken set to arrive in Israel as US pushes for Gaza ceasefire, expected to meet Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Gaza peace talks due to resume next week. Thai King Maha Vajiralongkorn formally appoints Paetongtarn Shinawatra as Thailand's new Prime Minister. Newly appointed PM says will perform her duties with an open mind. India's Home Minister Amit Shah presents Indian citizenship certificates to 188 Hindu refugees from neighbouring countries under Citizenship Amendment Act. Reigning champions Real Madrid to kick off La Liga against Mallorca, featuring Kylian Mbappe's debut. Coach Ancelotti emphasizes rest for the players during the season. India's Home Minister Amit Shah presented Indian citizenship certificates to 188 Hindu refugees from neighbouring countries under the provisions of the Citizenship Amendment Act on Sunday in Ahmedabad. The Citizenship Amendment Act seeks to fast-track the process of granting Indian citizenship to Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, Jains, Parsis and Christians who migrated to India from Bangladesh, Afghanistan and Pakistan due to religious persecution, provided they have lived in India for 6 years and entered the country by December 31st, 2014. In his address, Home Minister Amit Shah stated that the provision of Indian citizenship to refugees under CAA is a measure designed to ensure justice and grant rights to them.
CAA सिर्फ देश के लाखों लोगों को, देश में बस रहे लाखों लोगों को नागरिकता देने का कार्यक्रम नहीं है। सीएए देश में बस रहे लाखों शरणार्थियों को न्याय देने का और अधिकार देने का कार्यक्रम।
Now let's hear some reactions from the beneficiaries of the Citizenship Amendment Act. Let's listen in.
2008 में पाकिस्तान से इंडिया आया था, हम 6 लोग आए थे। हम जब यहाँ से ये आए नहीं आए हिंदुस्तान में, हमको बहुत दिक्कत थी। हमको स्कूल का दाखला नहीं मिल रहा था, नौकरी नहीं मिल रही पापा को। फिर 2014 में जो लोन निकला था एक, उसमें आधार कार्ड पान कार्ड बनाया मोदी जी ने। फिर अभी तो सीए का निकाला है जो, उसमें बहुत खुशी हुई। आज मेरे पापा को मिली है, कल हमको भी मिलेगी, ऐसी हमको आशा है। मोदी जी से बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद मानते हैं।
आज जो सुनहरा अवसर है हमारे लिए, तो मैं तो 2012 में आया हूँ यहाँ पे, और आज 12 साल के बाद तब जाके हमें सीए के माध्यम से हमें ये सिटीजनशिप मिली है। मैं बहुत बहुत आभारी हूँ सरकार का, जो विस्थापित हिंदू के लिए काम कर रही है।
India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar arrived in Kuwait on Sunday. In a post on the microblogging site X, Minister Jaishankar thanked his Kuwaiti counterpart Abdullah Ali Al Yahya for the warm welcome. Minister Jaishankar also called on the Crown Prince of the State of Kuwait, Sheikh Sabah Al Khalid Al Sabah Al Hamad Al Mubarak Al Sabah. During the meeting, he extended greetings from India's President Murmu and Prime Minister Modi. Minister Jaishankar also expressed gratitude to the Crown Prince for his guidance and insights on elevating the relationship between India and Kuwait. All right, indeed, India's Meghna Dev joins us from Ahmedabad to give us more details on this. Hello, Meghna. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar is in Kuwait. What all we can expect?
Yes, definitely a very important visit, though it is a one-day visit, but he's already met the Foreign Minister, he's fought on the Prime Minister, and we actually earlier see that there was a Foreign Office consultation that happened in Kuwait where the Joint Secretary from the Ministry of External Affairs, Asim Mahajan, was also there, and that took place just just last month, towards the end of the last month, being 24th July. So it's just both the sides have already taken stock of the bilateral relationship, what more cooperation needs to be done in different areas. Very importantly, we see that the two areas are holding more importance when we are talking about more increasing trade and investment, and we're also talking about the fintech sector. Besides, when we see that first, when we're talking about the trade, in 2023 and 2024, the trade was over $10 billion US, which is showing, and when we see India's exports, it is over $2 billion US. So that definitely shows that there is a 34% year-to-year growth in the trade relationship. So that is something very important, and more, more sectors of trade and investment can be explored. Besides that, Siddharth, this is important to say that this visit of the External Affairs Minister comes over a month or beyond a month after a number of workers, Indian workers, had lost their life in a fire incident in Kuwait. So that also, maybe this is one of the important issues that will be discussed about the safety of the expatriate community and also the number of workers that are, actually the Indian workers that are working in Kuwait. Because when we actually look at the numbers, there are about a million strong Indian expatriate community in Kuwait. So that is the largest expatriate community in Kuwait, for that matter. So it makes it even, bigger. So these are some important issues that will be discussed. Obviously, besides the international situation, the conflict in Gaza definitely will be something that will be discussed or will be on the table.
Meghna, you've just told us that what all could be discussed as External Affairs Minister is in Kuwait. Now, Meghna, for our viewers, tell us, what do we understand when it comes to the bilateral ties between India and Kuwait?
So first, when we're talking about the bilateral ties, we have over more than 60 years of diplomatic relationship. We are also seeing that when being Kuwait, it is a petroleum-based economy. It is one of the important aspects when we're talking about, energy procurement, petrol, crude oil, and all of that. And not only this, for Kuwait also, it is, the oil-based economy comprises of around, oil-based economy contributes to around 94% of the country's revenue. So that is very important. So, secondly, when we're talking about the bilateral relationship, as I said, a huge Indian expatriate community resides in Kuwait.
Correct.
So the people-to-people, linkages, we can say, or the people-to-people bond, people-to-people exchanges are very important. And, the frequent visits, we saw Dr. S. Shankar in 2021 also, he paid a visit to Kuwait. That was an important visit as well. But we are also now seeing that in the medical field, in the fintech sector, in the trade sector, more, this relationship or the bilateral relationship you asked me about may take a leap, or something more in new sectors can come up with Kuwait.
Well, nicely explained and wonderful analysis. Thank you so much, Meghna, for joining in. Vice President of the Gambia, Mohammed B.S. Jallow, arrived in New Delhi for the India-Africa CII Business Conclave. The conclave has emerged as one of the largest congregations of senior ministers, policymakers and business leaders from Africa and India, cutting across sectors. Confederation of Indian Industry, CII, in partnership with Ministry of External Affairs and Ministry of Commerce and Industry, Government of India, initiated the Africa Conclave on India-Africa Partnership in 2005. The 19th edition of the conclave will aim to serve as an instrument for Africa's growth and the role of India-Africa partnership in regional and global value chains integration. Nepal's Minister for Foreign Affairs, Dr. Arzu Rana Deuba, arrived in India on Sunday for a 5-day official visit at the invitation of India's External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Shankar. In a statement, the Indian Ministry of External Affairs said the visit aligns with the tradition of regular high-level exchanges between India and Nepal. The MEA noted that Nepal is a priority partner in India's neighborhood first policy. The visit will provide an opportunity for both nations to discuss and review the progress of bilateral cooperation and to further advance their ties. Meanwhile, India has increased security on its international border with Bangladesh. India's border security force is on high alert and thoroughly checking buses and citizens coming from neighboring country which are allowed to enter India. And the 24-hour nationwide strike called by Indian Medical Association in protest against the rape and murder of the woman doctor at Kolkata's RG Kaur Medical College and Hospital has ended. Meanwhile, after a meeting with the IMA and other doctors' associations, the Union Health Ministry has announced its decision to form a committee which shall suggest measures to ensure the safety of healthcare professionals in the country. The association also wrote to Prime Minister Narendra Modi demanding safety and pressed upon the 5 demands, including a Central Act and airport level security. West Bengal government has revoked the transfer of 42 doctors 24 hours after it issued the order. The recall order followed an intervention of Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee. There were allegations that the transfers were targeted at faculty members who protested the rape and murder of the trainee doctor at a state-run hospital. Meanwhile, the investigating agency CBI is probing the case after it was transferred from the Kolkata police by the Calcutta High Court on August 13. India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh receives Guard of Honour in Chennai, Tamil Nadu. The Defence Minister will inaugurate a newly constructed state-of-the-art Indian Coast Guard Maritime Rescue Coordination Centre building in Chennai. He will also inaugurate 2 additional key facilities, the Regional Marine Pollution Response Centre in Chennai and the Coast Guard Air Enclave in Puducherry. The first India Day celebrations were held in Greater Seattle in the US state of Washington. Bill Gates, the chairman of Gates Foundation, flagged off the first India Day celebrations as Consulate General of India in Seattle's guest of honor on 78th Independence Day of India. Addressing members of the Indian American community there, Gates referred to India as a global leader with breakthrough innovations in areas like technology, agriculture and healthcare. In another special gesture, 5 separate official proclamations were issued by government councils of King County, Bellevue City, Portland, Hillsborough, Tigard to honor the India Day celebrations. Some iconic buildings in Seattle and are also lit up in tricolors to mark the India Day celebrations. Let's take a look at other stories making news. Traffic has resumed on the railway track where 20 coaches of the Sabarmati Express passenger train derailed near Kanpur in Uttar Pradesh state on Saturday. Railway Minister Ashwini Vaishnav said that the train's engine hit an object placed on the track and derailed. An investigation into the incident is underway. Organized by the National Book Trust India, the 9-day-long Chinar Book Festival is underway in Jammu and Kashmir, Srinagar. This is the first of its kind mega festival organized by the NBT. In Assam's Dibrugarh, women from Marwari Yuva Manch celebrated the Hindu festival of Raksha Bandhan by tying Rakhi to policemen. Still to come on DD India News Hour. India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman set to convene a crucial review meeting. IMF Deputy Managing Director Geeta Gopinath says India is doing very well in terms of its growth rates. In tennis, Iga Swiatek and Arina Sabalenka to clash in Cincinnati Open semi-final. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman is set to convene a crucial review meeting on Monday to assess the performance of public sector banks and regional rural banks. This meeting aims to evaluate key financial metrics and the effectiveness of various government schemes, ensuring that these financial institutions are aligned with the economic goals. Finance Minister, along with other participants, will review deposit growth, the credit-to-deposit ratio and asset quality, which are vital indicators of the bank's health. The meeting will also cover initiatives for micro, small and medium enterprises' performance under government schemes, recent interventions and any pending issues that require attention. The IMF Deputy Managing Director Geeta Gopinath has said that India is doing very well in terms of its growth rates. In the United States, Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates told a 2,000-plus Indian-American community in Seattle that India is a global leader with breakthrough innovations in areas like technology, agriculture and healthcare. Let's look at the underlying conditions that give these statements context.
A week into August 2024, and the Reserve Bank of India's policy panel retained a 7.2% growth forecast for FY25. The MPC, during its June 2024 meeting, had also forecast India's GDP to grow at 7.2% in FY25. India is clocking a steady 7-plus GDP growth rate through every quarter of the financial year. Last year, or FY24, the Indian economy grew at 8.2%. This year's union budget is providing the right direction for that growth.
The theme is on women-led development, on providing skilling and jobs for youth, and presenting an overall healthy fiscal consolidation position where we are moving from a $3 trillion economy to a $5 trillion economy, from the 10th to the 5th, and we are moving, according to the IMF, to the third largest economy in the world by 2027.
Let's look at some key stats. Foreign exchange reserves have risen from $290 billion to more than $645 billion, and of a total FDI of $1 trillion over the last 78 years of India's independence, $600 billion in FDI have come in just the last 8 years. FDI comes to India from 160 countries and is directed in 61 sectors. The number of direct taxpayers, too, has doubled, strengthening the government's finances. This reflects strong animal spirits.
We started off with 356 startups. Today we have 140,000 startups. We have about 135 unicorns. We've created the third best ecosystem in the world. The startup ecosystem would get a huge impetus from the abolition of the angel tax, which has now been done.
Over the last 10 years, the Modi government has been successfully maintaining an equilibrium between the requirements of economic growth and the need to promote welfare of the disadvantaged sections. A Niti Aayog report says around 250 million people have escaped poverty over the last 10 years. Also reflecting the optimism in India's growth story, India's sensitive index on the Bombay Stock Exchange has been very sensitive to India's potential, rising from a low of around 25,000 during COVID-19 to over 80,000 now. Bureau Report, DD India.
And social media platform X closed its operation in Brazil due to censorship orders. Elon Musk-owned social media giant X on Saturday announced that it is shutting down its operations in Brazil with immediate effect in response to what the company described as a threat from Alexandre de Moraes, a justice of Brazil's Supreme Court. Earlier this year, Moraes ordered X to block certain accounts as he investigates so-called digital militias that have been accused of spreading fake news and hate messages during the government of far-right former President Jair Bolsonaro. You're watching DD India News Hour. Time now for sport. And Real Madrid are considering allowing players to go on short holidays during the season because of concerns about the congested fixtures schedule. On the eve of their La Liga season debut at Mallorca, Ancelotti said that the steady increase in regional and international games on the calendar was taking its toll on players. After winning the La Liga and Champions League double last season and now bidding for up to 7 titles in 2024-25 campaign, Ancelotti believes the club need to make sacrifices to preserve the health and fitness of the players.
What we are studying for this season by evaluating some things. As you say, players need to rest and to have holidays. So we are thinking during parts of the season is to give players individual holidays, which can be 1 week for a player where they will not play, so he can go rest with his family. This is a possibility, and we are studying it for the players that play their national teams who are most affected.
Manchester City will begin its campaign to win a record 5th consecutive Premier League title on Sunday with a visit to Chelsea's side under new manager City already is the all-time record holder for consecutive English League titles after winning its 4th straight last season and finishing 2 points above runner-up Arsenal. But manager Pep Guardiola admits the current squad is some distance from the well-oiled machine that won its past 9 league fixtures to edge the Gunners. And Iga Swiatek and Aryna Sabalenka earned quarter-final victories at the Cincinnati Open to set up the latest installment of their rivalry in the WTA 1000 event semis. World number 1 Swiatek survived a scare from 17-year-old Russian Andreeva to claim a 4-6, 6-3, 7-5 victory. After seeing a serve broken in the opening set, Swiatek rallied back to seal a 10th quarter-final win of 2024 and 30th victory at the WTA 1000 level. World number 3 Sabalenka breezed past Russia's Samsonova 6-3, 6-2 in an hour and 20 minutes. Of their 11 previous head-to-head encounters, Swiatek has dominated her rivalry with Sabalenka, winning 8 matches, including the finals of the Madrid and Italian Open this season. World number 1 Jannik Sinner advanced to the semi-finals of the Cincinnati Open. He defeated Russian 6th seed Andrei Rublev with a scoreline of 4-6, 7-5, 6-4. Standing between Sinner and a 5th career ATP 1000 final is 3rd seed Alexander Zverev. Sinner and Zverev will be squaring off for the 6th time in their careers when they clash in the semi-finals of the Cincinnati Open. Zverev is dominating the head-to-head series 4-1. Although he is the underdog on paper, Zverev has a great chance to make it 3-0 lifetime against Sinner on outdoor hard courts. Spanish tennis star Carlos Alcaraz apologizes for his unruly reaction during the loss to Gael Monfils at the Cincinnati Open on Friday. Alcaraz smashed his racket on the ground multiple times during the 3rd set. He ultimately fell to 37-year-old Monfils in a hard-fought match. Taking to X, the 21-year-old Spaniard expressed regret over his actions, acknowledging that his attitude during the match was not appropriate. Alcaraz admitted that in the heat of the moment, it was challenging to keep emotions in check, but he vowed to work on managing his temper in future matches. And Australia is set to host a one-off test in 2027 against England at the Melbourne Cricket Ground to mark 150 years of Test cricket. Australia won the single-innings timeless match played between March 15 and 19 in 1877 by 45 runs before England won the second match at the same venue to tie the series 1-1. In 1977, the 100-year anniversary of the inaugural test was also observed with test between Australia and England at the Melbourne Cricket Ground, with Australia winning the match again by 45 runs. That's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.